Hi YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 16 of Vlogmas and I'm filming late again because I'm lazy, what can I say? I promised I would give you guys a cute little holiday story today, so that's what we're gonna do. I thought it might be fun to talk about whether or not I actually ever believed in Santa Claus as a kid, because I did tell a story about how when I was 6 years old and I started going to church with my grandfather and how I laughed at all the grown-ups who believed in all the silly stories in the Bible, and I got shipped off to Sunday school and got promptly kicked out of Sunday school because I just wouldn't shut up with my questions. So, being that I was so skeptical, did I ever believe in Santa Claus? And the short answer is no, I didn't. But the cute story behind this is that my grandmother tried really hard to get me to believe in Santa Claus. She didn't really care whether I believed in a god or not, but it was really important to her that I believe in Santa Claus for some reason. I don't know why, but she tried for many years. I just kind of played along with it after a while because I was like, okay, she's not giving up, whatever. But yeah, she really wanted me to believe in Santa Claus. I don't know why, but it was cute and adorable, her attempts and everything. I do remember we had a department store called Vlogmas in Chicago. I believe I don't know if they had more than one store. There was only the one store that I'm aware of, and they weren't a big chain like Marshall Field's was in downtown Chicago, or Macy's in New York and that kind of thing. And Macy's now owns Marshall Field, so it's all Macy's now. Which actually, little tiny tangent there. Macy's ruined one of my favorite chocolates. Because Marshall Fields was known for their Frango mints. Little chocolate mints, and they were so good. They were like the best chocolate mints ever. And I was in Chicago in 2016 visiting family, and I bought myself a box going, oh boy, you know, because I generally can't buy them in most places, even though you can buy them at Macy's locally here now too. I hadn't realized that. I always thought you had to go back to Chicago to get them, but I bought a box and I popped one in my mouth, and I was like, because it was disgusting and terrible. It was waxy, and there was hardly any mint flavor to it, and I don't even know if there was any chocolate to it. It just was just like biting into a piece of brown wax. It was terrible. Ugh. Thanks for ruining my my favorite candy there, Macy's. Good job. Okay, now that we're past that tangent, so as I was saying, so we used to shop at Vlogmas when we could buy new clothes and things. Most of the time, I think I mentioned that I was usually in donated hand-me-downs from the church and things like that, or secondhand clothes, because my grandmother would get a lot of secondhand clothes, or just buy stuff at the rummage sales and that kind of thing. Although a lot of the clothes we got were just, you know, because the rummage sales, they would sell maybe 10% of what was on offer, and then members of the church were able to take donations if they needed them, and we were, you know, well below the poverty line, so they let us have quite a few pieces. My grandmother could pick out pieces that fit me and stuff, so I wore a lot of that kind of clothing. But every now and again my mom would actually get a job and actually start making money, and so we actually had money in the house, and then we would go to Vlogmas and buy things, and I would actually have new clothes to wear, which was always a great treat. Heck, getting new underwear is actually a treat for me, to be perfectly honest with you. Actually, underwear and socks were probably the two things that I would always get bought new. Obviously, you don't buy those used because you. Anyway. So Vlogmas had, in the basement they had a little cafeteria, and that was where their toy section was, and so that's where their Santa Claus was every year. So of course my grandmother dragged me, well, not dragged, because it was by the toys. I'm like, ooh, toys. But she's like, come on, go see Santa Claus and ask him what you want for Christmas. And I'd look at this like what? Huh? I honestly don't remember how she might have been dragging me there since I was a year old. Whatever, I don't remember. But I do remember like my grandmother was like, why don't you want to ask Santa Claus for presents and stuff? I was like, well, he's not going to bring me stuff. You guys give me presents. And see, the one mistake, my grandmother was trying desperately to make me believe in Santa Claus, but she failed miserably because there were never any gifts under the tree from Santa. They were from Omi, they were from Opie, they were from Uncle Adolf, they were from whoever, from my mom and stuff, but there were never any, like, it had been like two, my nickname at the time was Gigi, so it was like two Gigi from, and it always told me, like, who got me the gifts. But there was never any from Santa. I wonder why. And I told my grandmother this, and she was like, well, we're just helping Santa out. And then I would point out the fact that there were other Santas all ringing bells outside, or that there was a Santa at at Marshall Fields, and all this stuff. And she said, well, they're all helpers. The one at Vivolts, that's the real one. I'm like, but he's a different guy every year. She's like, how can you tell? He's just a big fat man in a suit with a beard. I'm like, they have different faces on me. And then, so there was that whole thing. But then, where she failed spectacularly as well, in terms of trying to make this believable for me, was that we celebrated St. Nicholas, who was basically Santa Claus, on December 6th, which is a German thing. And then on Christmas Eve, we'd always open packages at midnight on Christmas Eve when it was supposed to be, she would say Santa Claus, but then she would also say Christkindl, which is the German tradition, which is the Christ child, and would come and give gifts, but we were already opening them. So like none of it made any sense, and I'm like, you're doing a really bad job, Mommy. And I do remember that my grandmother would, on the night before Christmas Eve, she would make it look like Santa had come and visited. Now, we didn't have a chimney, we didn't have a fireplace. We had these what are they called? They're heaters. Space heaters, that's what they're called, space heaters. We had one in the kitchen, we had one in the living room, and they had gas, natural gas lines, and I remember when we turned them on in the winter, you'd have to push down for over a minute on the one button, and then you had to have these really, really long matchsticks to go in and light them. And it was dangerous because, if you did it wrong, you'd have too much gas in there and the whole thing could just blow up in your face. So, but I remember we had those, but so we didn't have a fireplace, and so the only place that Santa Claus could have come in to the house, if not through the front door, was, since we were on the second floor of the apartment, the sunroom from our landlady downstairs, the roof of that was below our front windows, and so Santa could have landed the sleigh on that and come through the window. At least that was my grandmother's assertion. And she started making it look like Santa had come visit because, I honestly don't even know how she did this, but she made it look like there were sleigh tracks. If there was snow on the roof, and there usually was, at least throughout the 70s. By the time the 80s rolled around, I was getting too old for Santa anyway. But in the 70s, we had snow pretty much every Christmas. We had a lot of snow in Chicago. There was a big blizzard in 78, I believe. Anyway, but my grandmother would draw what looked like sleigh tracks and then make reindeer footprints in the snow. And I don't know how because she did it far enough away from the window to make it look believable without putting any human footprints on the snow. So she must have been using a stick or something out of the window, but they were very well drawn out. she outdid herself. I will give her credit for that. That was the one thing where she outdid herself, and to this day I still don't know how she did it. I mean, obviously either it was her or my grandfather or somebody was going out there and doing this and making it look like Santa had landed his sleigh on the roof. But despite that effort, everything else was kind of a spectacular failure in trying to get me to believe in Santa. Just because, and it is a German tradition that basically St. Nicholas comes on December 6th. You put your shoes out of the door, and at the next morning they're filled with little goodies, chocolates and candy and things. And then on Christmas Eve is the Christkindl, or the Christ child, and it's the Christ child that actually brings the presents on Christmas Eve. And usually what would happen, at least the way my grandmother grew up, now my grandmother's dad, he was on point with the whole Christkindl thing at any rate, but he would have all of the kids go to their rooms or something, stay away from the parlor or the living room, and they would shut the parlor doors, and that's when he would haul in the Christmas tree, put up, and they actually used real candles back in those days, put the candles on, put all the presents under the tree, and then at midnight, all the kids would gather and they would open up the parlor doors, and voila, like magic, all of a sudden there's this beautifully lit tree and presents and everything else. And it was, you know, it was as if magic because it hadn't been there a couple hours before. And so I can see how, you know, that kind of a magical experience, she was trying to recreate that, but it kind of got mushed up with Santa Claus and St. Nicholas and everything else, and all the presents, you know, were signed by everyone but Santa. I mean, it was cute, it was adorable, and I appreciated her effort, especially as I got older and I kind of realized what she was trying to do. Because when I was really little, I was just kind of annoyed, like, why are you lying to me? And then I realized what she was trying to do, and it was very sweet. And so I started playing along, and like, okay, what did Santa get me this year? So anyway, like I said, my family always did try to make the holidays very special for me, and that's yet another example of some of my very fond holiday memories, and one of the reasons why, despite being a very skeptical atheist, I still love the holidays and I still love Christmas, and that's all there is to it. Well, thanks for listening to my little story today, and until tomorrow, take care. Bye-bye.